Sit down. Hey, who doesn't know me here? Who hasn't seen me before? You haven't? A couple of you haven't? I'm Chaplain Mike Reed. I've been a chaplain with the County of Los Angeles for 20 plus years now. And I just stepped down as a senior of Men's Central, and I'm now not a boss anymore, and I kind of like that because I've given up all the responsibility and the scheduling and the stuff that took up time from real ministry, if you know what I mean. So, not that it's not important, but I had other things I wanted to do. So, we're living in some strange times, aren't we? Yeah. You know, I've lost, I know pastors personally. I know of 10 pastors personally that have either lost their job or lost their churches. One friend of mine who had a church in Orange County completely lost his church because of inability to pay the bills. Nobody showing up because of COVID, and he still had bills to pay. So you guys are real lucky here. A lot of places haven't been quite as lucky. When I first started going into the jail, I bought this to carry my papers around, and I put that sticker on it, "Fear not." And it's been a slogan to me forever. And it makes sense. Do you guys know that the words "fear not," "do not be afraid," are in the Bible 365 times? I wonder if that's a coincidence. You know what I mean? But you can count them if you don't believe me. They're all there. It's "fear not," "don't be afraid," or there's one other one, I can't remember what it is. But it's 365 times. And you have to learn that God's in charge. You have to learn that when you become a Christian, you are deployed. You are given an assignment. And the assignment is to reach others for Christ. That's the whole assignment. And until you've fulfilled your assignment, you're untouchable. So you don't have to worry about COVID. God's in charge, not COVID. When you learn that, it takes the fear away. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I had a lot of fear going into the jail when this first started, because we had areas that were quarantined, and we've had over, I think it's up to about 3,000 guys have been quarantined in the jail since March. They've had one death. The guy was 80-something. So you start to learn how it's not really as bad as everybody says it is. I know Isaac came down with it, right? I came down with it in May, lasted 3 days, went away, had to go through all that routine. But it's nothing to be afraid of. If you have people that are in there 75, 80 plus, and they have some serious underlying conditions, keep an eye on them, but otherwise, you got better odds of being struck by lightning. So anyway, I hope that helps you a little bit, but God's still in charge, and when you're a Christian, you're deployed. And God won't take you out of action until you've fulfilled what He's called you to do. So remember that. That's real important. And anyway, Isaac asked me to come in and share with you guys how I kind of got started as a chaplain, how it all worked out for me, and how I wound up there. So let me do a little prayer first before I get it started. How's that? Father, thank you. Thank you for loving us and caring about us, and for your faithfulness and your grace and mercy, and for caring about us at all, Lord, because you know exactly what we're like. But Father, we lift up this country, this nation, this city, Lord, and we ask you to end COVID, put an end to it, put an end to the misinformation, the lies, the deception. We ask for your wisdom, for your rule, Lord. We ask for your will to be done in the election and everything, Lord. And we just ask you to help get back on track and get this country to repent and to start a revival among ourselves. And just help us, Father. And we ask that all in Jesus' name. Amen. Anyway, I never wanted to be a chaplain. It was never on my radar. Wasn't on my bucket list, that's for sure. But I started going to Bible college. I was going to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa a long, long time ago. And I was in Bible college there, and I was going through Bible college. And while I was in Bible college, I was teaching Bible studies. And so when I finally graduated from Bible college, I went into the Calvary Chapel School of Ministry there. And while I was there, I realized that I wanted to be a pastor. My dream was to plant a church. I wanted to have my own church. So towards the end of School of Ministry, I had a team of guys. We had rented a building. I had a worship team that was going to go with me. We were going to plant a church down in Venice Beach. We were all set to go. And then a friend of mine called me up and said, Mike, I got some vacation slots in the LA County Jail I need to fill. Can you come in and teach a couple nights? And I said, well, yeah. So I went in. First night I go in, they gave me this thing called the Veterans Dorm. It's honorably discharged veterans doing time. And I go in there, and this is down at CRDF when all the men were down there. Big, gigantic dorm. And about 80 guys came out of their cell for me. And they got in a line, and they were standing at attention. I had no idea what they were doing. And an inmate comes up to me and he goes, "Sir, we're under your command now, whatever you say." Which I thought was pretty cool. But anyway, so I introduced myself, told them all to shake everybody's hand, introduce themselves, and it was like a pre-made church. Here I was getting ready to head to Venice Beach to plant a church, and here I had a church of 80 guys that were willing, able, and looking forward to seeing me and hearing what I had to say. They all came out with their Bibles, and that's where I started to kind of fall in love with it. And I did it a couple more weeks, and I was there a month or two, and then the department came to me and they said, "Mike, we want you here more." They said, "Can you come in more often?" And I said, "Yeah, I suppose." And eventually I did that for a while, and then they made me the senior chaplain at CRDF. This was a long time ago, but it was never my goal to be a chaplain. I wanted to, when I was in school and ministry, I thought I wanted to work with kids, teenagers. And so Chuck let me do some youth stuff. I was taught some Sunday Bible school and did some other stuff, and I discovered that I hate kids. But they weren't my kids I hated, they were your kids, you understand it? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I realized that I wasn't called to minister to kids. I was called to, I got along well and could do better with adults. So that's what I started to focus on. And so the LA County Jail opened their doors to me, and I walked in. And give you an idea what the LA County Jail, how big it is. It's 5 facilities. They can hold a maximum of 22,000 inmates. They have a maximum occupancy of 18,000. When they hit 18,000, they have to start kicking out that minute. They have a federal cap on it put on by a judge. But today, we have about 11,000 in it because of COVID. Men's Central Jail, which normally holds anywhere between 5 and 7, is now at between 3 and 4,000. So our numbers have gone way down. They've completely stopped services in the LA County Jail. There are no services at all, except out at Wayside. They allow them to do services at the door to a dorm, which is, it's better than nothing, I guess, but it's not what we're used to. We're used to having a chapel full of guys, But, yeah. I suffer from CRS, so you guys know what CRS is, right? Can't remember stuff? Anyway, I just found out today that Orange County opened up their jail for services last week. So they're now allowing services in Orange County. I'm hoping that trickles down to LA somehow, because it's a lot of what we do in there. I'll give you an idea. Prior to COVID, we were doing 30 to 35 services a week in Men's Central Jail with 5,000 guys. It's a lot of people we saw every day, every week. So, yeah. And Pep's still going in. Zach, you're still going in too, aren't you? Yeah. Anybody else here going into the LA County? No? Just you two? I heard you retired. Me? Yeah. No? Oh, okay. Who's lying to me? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, we're all trying to figure out what jail ministry is going to be like after COVID, because we're all as confused as everybody else, because nobody knows who's giving directions, nobody knows who's calling the shots. I've taken it all the way up to a chief and yelled at a chief about it. Why can't we do dorms? Because we house them together anyway. We're not going to commingle them. What's the difference, And they just don't want to hear it. So they're waiting for Garcetti, and I don't know. Just keep it in your prayers, because hopefully they'll open it up again soon, but we really don't know. And I know a lot of people that have given up on the idea of jail ministry. I know a lot of people that have retired as a result of it, that don't plan on going back. So it's changed a lot. But anyway, like I said, I never wanted to be a jail chaplain. I always wanted to do something else. But once I got started in there, I couldn't give it up. But I don't know if you know this, the LA County Jail or the county sheriffs, they don't pay us. It's 100% voluntary. They don't pay any chaplains. So all the work, it's considered an urban mission, working in the LA County Jail. So eventually I worked there part-time, and I did alcohol and drug counseling on the side for many years to support myself. And one day they came to me and they said, Mike, we want you here full-time. And I said, well, you don't pay. And they go, well, yeah, we know. And I go, well, I do have bills. I have a car payment, I have rent, I have all these little things most people have. And what did you want me to do with those? And they go, we don't know, we figured you figure a way. And I go, well, how many hours do you want me? And they go, well, at least 35 hours a week. And I said, and you don't want to pay me? And they go, no, is that okay? So I was a little confused. So I went home and I prayed about it. I talked to every pastor I knew about it. I talked to people for a couple of weeks asking for advice. What should I do? And then I'm out at Costa Mesa and I get to sit down with Chuck and ask my question to Chuck. And I get halfway through my little spiel with him and Chuck goes, stop. He goes, just stop. He goes, you trust God? And I go, yeah, why? And he goes, well, what makes you think you can't trust him with your money? And he had me. I had never trusted him with my money. And he goes, do you think if you stepped out in faith that God is just going to forget all about you and not help you and not be there for you? He goes, is that the kind of God you think you serve? He goes, why don't you just step out in faith and see what God wants to do? And so I told Chuck, I go, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you, and I'll let you know. So I went home that night, and I prayed about it, and I made a deal with God. First time I'd made a deal, well, maybe a second. First time I made a deal with God. And I said, God, I was going to take the sheriff department up, but I'm not going to ask anybody for money. I'm not going to ask for a dime from anybody. I'm not going to do any fundraisers. I'm not going to ask for any kind of support. I'm just going to go it, and you're going to have to do it all, or I'm not going to do it. And I quit my job the next day. And I started with the sheriff's department in the jail the following day. And my first month went by, and I was running out of money. I had about $26 in my checking account. I was freaking out. I was having nightmares of my car being repossessed, getting kicked out of my place where I lived. I was in full panic mode. And I was coming home from the jail one day. I was on the freeway, and I got a call. And it was the secretary of Costa Mesa, the church secretary. And she goes, Mike, Chuck told me to put you out as a missionary. We're going to help support you. And I go, I didn't tell him I took the job. He goes, oh, I don't know. I'm just telling you what Chuck told me. And I go, well, how much am I going to get? And she goes, oh, you're going to get $300 a month, which wasn't anywhere near what I needed. But it was but it was better than a kick in the butt, if you know what I mean, right? So I said, thank you. And then a couple of days later, I got a call from Calvary Chapel Downey, Jeff. He said, Mike, he goes, we're going to put you out as a missionary. We're going to help support you. I said, how much are you going to give me? He goes, we're going to give you $300. I don't know why they all got stuck on three, but a couple of weeks later, I get a call from Calvary Chapel Bellflower. We're going to put you out as a missionary. We're going to help support you. Then I got a call from a couple other Calvaries, South Bay. Mike, we're putting you out as a missionary. I didn't tell anybody I took the job, not a soul. And by the end of 2.5 months, I was making enough to pay my bills, about as much as I was in my other job. So I was officially able to let go and relax a little bit. Then God sealed the deal with me. I was driving home on the freeway. Phone rings. Guy goes, hey, my name's Neil. We've never met. You don't know me. I don't know you. He goes, I was at church the other day and I saw your name on a missionary board. He goes, and I've got a gift for your ministry. Can you stop by my house and pick it up? And I said, well, yeah. So he gave me his address in Fullerton. I figured he wanted to give me a box of Bibles or stuff for the inmates. So I get to his house, a little old guy about this big, comes out of the house. He's probably 70 years old. He goes, Mike, he goes, I own a construction company out here in Orange County. He goes, I made a ton of money this year. He goes, my accountant told me if I don't give some of it away, they're going to tax the crap out of me. He goes, I picked you. He goes, I'm going to give you 10 grand right now. He goes, and if you need anything further, you just call, and whatever you need, I'll provide. And I had never met that man before in my life, and he handed me 10 grand. And I haven't seen him since. I get a Christmas card from him every year. That's how God works. God has no problem with resources or funding you if he's called you to your ministry. But don't, and I learned, that's where I really learned I could trust God with everything. I didn't know I could really trust him with everything until that point in time, you know? And I've also learned that God can't use you if you're not available. And by that I mean, I've learned this in the jail too. I've had chaplains that refuse to work with the gay population. We have a major gay population in the jail of about anywhere between 500-600 inmates at a time. He goes, and I had guys that wouldn't go up there, wouldn't talk to them, didn't want anything to do with that floor. And as far as God concerned, they're not a help there. They're not available. God can't use them there. On the streets, I've been involved with different homeless ministries, and I've got guys that will have nothing to do with the homeless. They don't like them, they're dirty, they're filthy, they're all on drugs, they're drunk, and they don't want to get involved. So as far as God concerns, you're useless there. God will use you wherever you say, use me. And if, how do I put this? If God can use you wherever you're at, but you need to be available. When God sees you are available, he uses you for other stuff. He tends to use people that are involved in ministries to start new ministries. That's kind of how God's plan works. It worked well with me, but being available is probably the most important thing. And by that I mean volunteer for different ministries, different ones that get you outside of your comfort zone. I don't know what your comfort zone is. Maybe it's cold evangelism on the street. Maybe it's witnessing to homeless. Maybe it's food ministries or whatever it is. Just volunteer time. You'd be surprised what God does with that time. But if you don't volunteer, God can't use you. And it's, I don't know about you guys, but some of you guys that have been doing ministry forever, it's exciting to be involved in any ministry. God has been so good to me. I've had an exciting life in the county jail. People don't think it's exciting. I got the greatest birthday present of my entire life from a total stranger in the jail. I've been alive 67 years, and I got the greatest birthday present from a total stranger. It was a commander, and he called me into his office, and he said, Mike, I heard it was your birthday today. And I didn't know this commander. And I go, well, yeah. I go, well, thank you. He goes, I just wanted to thank you for the job you do here. He goes, but I did hear it was your birthday, and I wanted to give you something. And I go, well, fine, what'd you get me? And he goes, it's going to be landing out back in about 20 minutes. And I said, I don't understand. He goes, I used to be the commander of the air division. I'm sending you up on an all-day ride-along. So I spent the whole day in the sheriff's helicopter. Now check this out. My parents were still alive then. And so I spent 8 hours with these guys in the air. And I told them, I said, can we buzz my folks' house? And they go, yeah. They gave me the address, and we're doing circles around my parents' house. And it's about 8 o'clock at night now. I go, yeah, do you mind if I turn on the light? And they go, no, go ahead. So I turned on the spotlight, right? And I go, can I get on the PA? You know, you only get one shot at this. You know, it's not like I'm going to get to do this again tomorrow. So I got on the PA, and I go, Mr. and Mrs. Reed, come out of your house. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, come out of the house. They never forgave me for that. They never forgave me for that. But it was quite an experience. And also, you learn things in the jail that I've been asked some of the toughest questions. I've been a pastor since 1995, and I have been asked the hardest questions in ministry from inmates, more than I've been asked by anybody on the streets. I had an inmate check out this question and tell me how you would answer it. Inmate asked to see me, actually made a kind of a special request to talk to me. And he goes, Mike, he goes, I just got sentenced to 25 to life. He goes, I'm married, I have 3 kids. He goes, I want God's permission to divorce my wife. He goes, I don't want to have her following me around the state prisons, unable to help her, unable to provide for her. He goes, I want to set her free so she can find a man that can really love her. She goes, because I no longer can do that. And, you know, I had a tough time answering it because I could see that his intentions were noble. He wanted to do the right thing. And I wasn't sure how to answer him, so I told him I was going to have to get back to him. And I talked to about 6 pastors on this. And they all told me the same thing. What do you think they told me? Come on, somebody say it. No? Why do you think they said no?
I feel because God chose them, though they have chosen each other to be with each other for good and for bad, for better or for worse.
Yeah. What they told me was divorce is quite appropriate because technically he has technically by being in prison and unable to support, provide, or take care of his wife in any way, he has technically abandoned her. He said, but he goes, it's not his decision. He goes, if she wants to leave him, she can. It's not his to leave her. And they all agreed on that, and that surprised me. See what I mean when I get good questions in the jail? That was a tough question. So, yeah. But anyway. And we meet hard cases in the jail, people that want nothing to do with us. I used to walk a real nasty area where the guys were usually murderers, multiple murderers, and I'd go by there once a week just to check in on them, and I had this one guy, big black guy, he was about this high over me. He was there for 4 murders, and every time I'd walk by his cell, I'd go, hey, I'm Chaplain Mike, can I get you something to read, pray with you? And he'd go, get away from my cell. And I'd go, oh, okay, and I'd move on, and this went on, I would go down that cell row at least once a week for months. And every time I'd walk by his cell, I would always offer him, and he would always yell at me to get away from his cell. So after about 6 months of this, I'm walking by his cell, and I just ignore him. And I walk by, and he goes, hey. I go, what? He goes, I need to talk to you. Now it is my time to front off him. He's been fronting me off for 6 months. Now I get to have some fun with him. So I told him, I said, yeah, what can I do for you? And he goes, I just want you to know I've been watching you. And I go, yeah, so what? And he goes, I can tell that you're not like the guards here, or the deputies. He goes, you guys actually care about us. And I said, yeah, so what? And he goes, I just want you to know that I have more respect for you now. And I go, yeah, so what? And he goes, I go, is there anything I can get for you? Can I pray with you? Can I get you a Bible to read? He goes, no, get away from my cell. 6 months later, though, I led that young man to the Lord. He was in his 40s, and I led him to the Lord. I don't know what happened to him. I'm sure he's doing life without somewhere, but, The other thing about jail ministry, if you get into it and get involved in it, you very seldom see the fruit of it. Occasionally you will. But I've ministered to thousands of guys and never seen any of them on the streets. So it's like you very seldom run into people that you've ministered to. It's one of the sad parts about it. That's one of the reasons I wanted to step down from my senior position. I wanted to get involved in ministries where I could actually see fruit, where I could do discipleship and teaching and stuff like that. But, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Hey, how many of you are active? Is there anybody actively going into juvenile hall or... You guys are going to the juvenile. How often do you go?
Well, right now nothing's happening, but previously, before COVID.
Oh, before COVID. They're not letting you in now either?
No, we're going to city area, but it's just for one-on-ones. We can't do any groups.
Okay.
So we're going for one-on-ones and go up to the dorm, and we're taking actually one-on-ones and then just talking to whoever wants to. And they're not getting visitors, so they all want to talk to you.
There's a lady now in charge of the probation department. Her name's Terry McDonald, and she's an extremely pro-chaplain lady. So if you ever get a chance her office is in Downey, right across the street from Kaiser. That's where the main probation office is. I don't know if you guys know that. But if you ever get a chance, stop over there and ask to talk to Terry McDonald. She used to be the assistant sheriff. She worked with us there. She really helped us in a lot of the stuff we did, but she took over the probation department. And I was thinking about going and talking to her and seeing what we may be able to open up there that they're closing down elsewhere. So, but it's just something for you guys to think. It's a great lady. So if you get a chance, talk to her. What else? I always wanted to do discipleship with men. One of the things I discovered when I first started being a chaplain was everybody had heard the gospel. All the inmates have heard the gospel. They've all heard Jesus preach. Half of them have gone forward. Half of them go forward at every altar call we do. You could do 10 altar calls a day, and if the guy was at the same service, he'd go to every altar call. Same thing happens in the missions and all that. They go to every altar call. But I noticed that the one thing the men weren't is the men weren't discipled. They weren't taught what to do afterwards that they seek Jesus. They weren't taught where to go, where good churches are, how to get involved, how to connect, how to proceed with it from that point on. So I wanted to do a different kind of thing, so I kind of started up a school of ministry in the LA County Jail, first one of its kind. And they denied me for 4 years. I proposed it 4 years in a row, every year to different chiefs and commanders, and got shot down every time. They said, no, we let you do one, the Catholics are going to want to do one, the Jehovah's are going to, everybody else is going to want to do one too, so we're not going to let you do one. But I kept pressing it, and one day I'm working late, and I see a couple commanders walking down the hallway, and I kind of like butted into their conversation, and one of them goes, anything I can do for you? And I said, yeah, I'd like to start a school of ministry, and can't seem to get it done. And I talked to him, and he goes, well, this is what I'll do, Mike. He goes, I'm going to run it up my chain. He goes, and I'm going to get back with you in about a week. And he goes, I'm going to tell you now the answer is no. He goes, because that's what I think the answer is going to be. He goes, but I'm going to at least look into it for you. He goes, I promise you that. And I said, okay. So about a week goes by, and I get a phone call to go across the street to the commander's office. And they're on the penthouse. They have a big, nice room up there. And I walk in, and I see the commander, and he waves at me, and he goes, Mike, give me a minute. He goes, I've set up a conference room for you, and I've set aside an hour for you with my staff. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. So I walk into this conference room, and there's lieutenants, sergeants, captains, and he walks in with me, puts his arm around me, and he goes, guys, this is Mike Reed from across the street. He's the senior chaplain. He wants to start a school of ministry. He goes, make it happen. And he walked out of the room and left me there. And the following week, my school of ministry started. But the interesting thing was, as I was leaving that conference room that day, the commander called me. He goes, come here, come into my office. And I went into his office, and there were two captains in there with him. He goes, Mike, before you go back across the street, we'd like to pray for you. And I never expected that. These are really high-ranking. I never expected them to pray for me before I went back across the street. Blew my mind. But it just shows you that God can be in places where you don't think he is. You know what I mean? And, yeah. You guys are a tough crowd, you know? Okay. That's one of my lines, you know. I use it all the time, you know. Yeah, anyway. But what else? What have I struggled with? My struggle's been finding people to come into it's always a struggle to get people to come into the jail, because it isn't what people think it is. It isn't as easy as people think it is. The hardest job in the jail is not doing a service or teaching a Bible study. That's not the hardest job there. The hardest job there is walking rows, talking to guys one-on-one, praying with them, actually taking the time to listen to them. These guys don't get listened to. And if you can take time and genuinely listen to somebody and pay attention to them and do what I call active listening with somebody, it makes all the difference in the world to these people. They also know when you're genuine. They know when you're kidding and when you're not, and they know when you're serious. They know when you love them and when you don't. They know when you're just there like to earn a paycheck or something. They know. And so the best way to go in there is if you love people, you got to love people. It's a dirty job in there. You're not dealing with the nicest people on the planet. Some of these people deserve 100% to be there. They actually belong there, and it's a good place for them. But even God loves them too. You know what I mean? And when they discover that you love them, and when they see that you love them, it changes their whole attitude towards you. You can get a lot done. I get called in on what they call extractions. Extractions are where a guy is refusing to come out of his cell. He's resisted arrest. He's assaulted a deputy. He's thrown stuff at people, and they want to move him to a disciplinary area. And when they do an extraction, they lock down the jail, and they have all the staff talks to them. The deputy staff, the chain of command, they all talk to them all the way up to captain. When the captain's done with them, mental health gets to talk to them. When mental health gets done talking to them, I or another chaplain gets to talk to him, and we get to try and talk the guy out. I've been able to talk out about 50% of the guys I've talked to. And it's a whole lot, it's really nice when I've been able to talk somebody out. I had a guy that he was down in the hospital and he was refusing to come out of his cell. And I got down there and I asked what's going on, and they said he would only talk to a chaplain. He won't talk to anybody else. He won't obey commands. So I went up to his little window and I go, "What do you want?" "I'm the chaplain." He goes, "Are you sure you're the chaplain?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure I'm the chaplain." He goes, "How do I know you're a chaplain?" And I took my ID and I go, "See, I'm the chaplain." He goes, "Yeah, I guess you are." I go, "So what did you want to see a chaplain for?" And he goes, "All these other people, they're trying to hurt me. They're trying to hurt me, or they want to kill me, and I can't trust them." I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, you're the chaplain." I go, "Can you trust me?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, you're the chaplain." I go, "Well, then listen to me and pay attention. You can come out. They're not going to hurt you. They're here to help you. And I'll stick around to make sure they don't hurt you." And he backed up and he goes, "Are you sure you're the chaplain?" But eventually he came out, and that was just one of those things. We had a detective, sheriff department detective, that got arrested, a 22-year veteran. He got arrested for child molestation in his own family. When it was all said and done, he got 14 years. But when he was in the jail, they had him on suicide watch. And his family asked me if I would stop by and see him every day. So every day I was there, I would go by and spend a couple of minutes with him. I found out he was a terribly backslidden Christian. But I found out he really genuinely was a Christian, just terribly, but he used to be a leader in his church, an elder in his church. Anyway, I spent a lot of time with him through his whole trial, and after he left, I kind of forgot about him. And about 6-7 months went by, and I get a phone call, and it's his mom. And his mom called to thank me. She said, "You know, that if it wasn't for me talking to him and taking the time, that he had planned on killing himself." She goes, "And if it wasn't for your voice and taking the time and kind of loving him, he goes, he would not be alive today, and I wanted to thank you." So I didn't realize, you don't realize what your voice can do, how it can impact people, and how much of a difference it can make in somebody's life, you know. There are people that won't listen to a thing I say. They could care less about what I say, but there are people that you know that will listen to you and hear what you have to say. You know what I mean? So that's why your voice is important. That's why God gave us a voice, so we can use it. You know what I mean? What else? How else have I gotten in trouble in the jail? Yeah. I have too many good stories to know. You guys can imagine that, huh? I accidentally got locked in a cell for 4 hours. That was in my early days. They did a change of shifts, and I accidentally got in the cell. The door slid shut, and I was in there until they were done changing shifts and we're doing count. I learned my lesson that way. That was one of the ways you learn your lesson, you know what I mean? In the whole 20 years as being a chaplain, I've only had one inmate take a swing at me. And that's a pretty good record, because I've talked to a lot of people. And this guy was a little mentally unbalanced to begin with. So, you know, it was on an extraction, and stuff like that happens. But yeah, you done any extractions, Zach? They called you in on some?
Yeah, they called me in on a couple. One was a Marine who had put plastic all over his body and had armored himself up with cardboard and was waiting for them to come and pull him out. And he wanted a chaplain who was a vet. And I told him I was a vet. They had me with one of those glass doors. And then he said, "I want a vet who understands what's going on now." And I said, "Well, I have 2 children that are in the Army right now. And one of them is in an active duty in a forward operating base." He goes, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." And he just wanted to fight. And everybody that was still in the cell was egging him on. That was the hardest part. He really had to show that he had some mettle on him. And the hard part was that you see the officers that have to go in there and they get all the young officers sort of hyped up. And then they're usually the ones that get injured.
Yeah.
Because the cells are so small. But yeah, and then I had an older man who was afraid to give up his wheelchair in the hospital. And I got on my knees and prayed with him and asked him, and he was just so adamant about hanging onto that wheelchair that he said, I'll fall to the ground. For some reason, they wanted to take him across the street to Twin Towers and have him checked, but he was afraid they were going to take his wheelchair away.
Oh, yeah.
And he was about 75 years old, gray. Yeah, it was real heartbreaking.
Yeah, you never know what their issues are when you talk to them, because everybody's got issues there, yeah, that's good stuff. I had a guy that they called me. He was on the bus. They called me in late at night. He wouldn't get off the bus. You guys know the LA County big buses, so I show up and there's about 30 deputies standing outside this bus, and I'm going, why don't you guys just go in and yank him off? You guys, if you're any place else in the world, that's what you do. And they go, well, go on in and take a look. And I go, okay. So I got up on the bus, and there's a guy at the very back of the bus, and he has slipped out of his handcuffs. He is completely naked, and he's chanting. He's like in some kind of trance. And he wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't make eye contact with me, wouldn't do anything. So I went out and asked if I could find the policy on the department's exorcism procedure. But then they told me they didn't have one and I could go home. So, but yeah, there's mental illness is really bad right now in LA County. And some of you might have already known that, but it's getting worse. Twin Towers, I don't know if you know about this, Twin Towers, which holds about 5,000 men. Everybody in Twin Towers is on medication, psychotropic of some kind, all of them. The general population is now all across the hall at Men's Central, but everybody in Twin Towers is on some kind of medication, and they're still running out of room. I heard today, I got an email from the Sheriff's Department, they're working on closing the South facility starting next week sometime, which is part of Wayside. You guys know about the defunding going on? That's an ongoing issue. Yeah, they're worried about what they're going to do and how they're going to keep all these guys employed. And there's about 600 or 700 inmates out at South that they're going to have to move somewhere else. But yeah, it's a sad season we're in for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. I think God's in the midst of changing something, and I don't know about you, but I hate change. Only kind of change I like is when it's in my pocket. You know what I mean? That kind of change. I want to know what drawer my socks are in, you know, and you don't change stuff on me. You know, I want to know where everything is, you know. So when God changes things, we get real uncomfortable, we get a little fearful, we get a little on edge, it raises our anxiety level. But that's the only way God can change us in seasons is to, you know, he needs to upset our apple cart, you know what I mean? He needs to get us out of our little comfort zones. And you know, we all have our own little comfort zones. My comfort zone used to be speaking in public. I used to be scared to death of public speaking. And then in School of Ministry, that's required. You have to learn how to do public speaking. And in Costa Mesa, we had a class of 50 guys. And every week they would pick 3 guys, and they would give you a piece of paper with what you were teaching on it. It might be a verse, it might be a paragraph, it might be a chapter, but you had 20 minutes you were going to do on that, and you had a week to prepare for it. And then we would walk into the chapel or the sanctuary, and they would wire us up for sound. They would turn on the video cameras, and everybody in the audience would get a grading sheet on us. And the grading sheet would ask questions like, did he spit? Was he boring? Did he know his scripture? Would you go somewhere else and see him? What didn't you like about him? Those were the questions. And I'm going out to give my first message, and Chuck Smith is in the front row with a little grading sheet on me. And it's like having God in the audience, you know what I mean? And I'm going, oh God, I wonder what he's going to write, you know? And then I found out he wrote exactly the same thing on everybody's sheet. He wrote, good work, keep up the good work, God bless. He wrote that on everybody's sheet, so. But he had me scared, but anyway. But that's how I got over my fear of public speaking by being graded, so I don't worry about it anymore. You guys aren't grading me. So, are you? No. But yeah, that's one way to get over your fear of public speaking. Anybody have any questions about jail that they don't know?
Yeah, earlier you talked about how you tried for 4 years to get that disciple program going. Did Catholic or any other religion try to do the same thing?
No, I was the only one that tried it. It became the most requested class in the jail. It became so popular, we had inmates sneaking into it. And that kind of upset the guards and the deputies there because they couldn't find people, and then they found out they were sneaking into my class. And so they came to me and they go, well, you can't do that. We're going to have to move you over here to keep a better eye. And they moved me, and people still kept sneaking in. It went on from 2013 to 2017. We graduated over 11 classes. Each class was 3 months long. We had 50 students per class. We had them 2 hours a day every week. So it was a good deal with them. And I had all different kinds of pastors come in and teach and share and give their testimonies and tell their stories. And we did Bible studies, yeah.
Is it still ongoing?
No, they made me stop it. They eventually kept moving me around until I just didn't work out anymore. But I found out that was their plan. Yeah. I've made some of my best relationships in the jail with friends. There was a captain there. Well, I'll tell you about the sergeant first. There was a sergeant that hated me, literally hated me, wouldn't help me regardless what I asked for. He would tell me to get out of his office, leave him alone. He would tell me, no, I'm not going to help you. Sorry about that. He would cancel services on me. He would do all kinds of stuff like that. He was a big sergeant, and I found out that his son got arrested. And I found out that they were holding his son. They have an area in MCJ where they hold relatives of police officers that get arrested to keep them safe. And I found out he was there, and I went to go visit him, and I started stopping by every time I was in the jail to say hello to his son. I got his son some Bible stuff to read, prayed with him, and I guess the word got back to the sergeant. And I'm walking down the hallway one day, and this sergeant sees me, and he gives me this big frown, and he gets right in my face, and he goes, "Thank you." You know what I mean? I never had a problem with him after that date, so I wound up having a good relationship with him. So sometimes it's just how you do things sometimes, you know. But there was a commander in the jail, and he was gay. And he's the first deputy in the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department that had a gay marriage. And they made a big deal about it, and he's famous throughout the department. And I had a stance on my Facebook page where somebody asked me my position on gay marriage, and I put out my position on gay marriage, how it wasn't biblical. You know what I mean? I just put the truth on my thing. And I'm going down the hallway one day, and this commander yells at me, he goes, "Hey, come here, you." And I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You know I'm gay, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "I saw your stance on gay marriage on Facebook." I said, "Yeah, so what?" He goes, I want to be your friend." And I go, "I beg your pardon?" And he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I like you anyway." He goes, "So I'd like to be friends with you. Will you be friends with me on Facebook?" And I said, "Yeah." And I made a friendship with a commander who was gay, and he helped me. I can't tell you how many times through my time at MCJ. And I couldn't figure out why. I still don't know why to this day. But we're still friends on Facebook, and he's still happily gay married, whatever that means. You know. But I have no idea what that means. But anyway. Well, yeah, but I love the relationships I've made there, and all I can tell you is if God's called you to jail ministry, He's going to give you some hints. He's going to open doors that wouldn't normally have been open, and if you don't step in, you won't get to participate. So that's what I mean when I talk about being available. When somebody asks you to do something, they might just be testing you to see whether you're willing. You know, that's how they did it in Costa Mesa. If you weren't willing to do something, they weren't going to ask you. So when you're willing to step out, they learn, hey, that guy helps out a lot. Go grab him. You know, see if he wants to help. That's how stuff works. And God does that in all kinds of things. You know, like I said, I wanted to be just a regular pastor, have a small little church, a couple hundred people, marry him and bury him. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to do. That's what most pastors want to do. I'm going to tell you a secret about pastors, but it doesn't go any further than this room, right? We would rather do funerals than weddings. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that? The reason we would rather do funerals than weddings is it actually gives us an opportunity to minister to people. There's people there that are hurting. There's people there that need to know Jesus, and it's the perfect time to talk to them about it. That doesn't happen at very many weddings. But most of the pastors I know, we would all rather do funerals. That's why most of us all do funerals for free, because we look forward to it. Anyway, that's a secret. Don't tell anybody. That's like a most of us have to learn the secret handshake before we learn that. So, God, you guys are a tough crowd, man. But anybody else got a good question? That was a good question, though. Did I answer it? Okay. Nobody else got a question? Okay. Yeah, how about you, Big Dave?
I had a question, but I can't remember stuff.
Do you guys know this is one of the most faithful men I've met in my entire life? He has been so faithful to this ministry and to Calvary Chapel. I've had him come in and do worship for me at different churches, and God's going to have a party when you show up, man. You've been very faithful, man. It's always I'm always glad when I come here and I see you here. You know, yeah. Who? Oh.
I was gonna ask a question, because it got me really, my ears opened up when we're talking about the disability, the mental illness and stuff that, that's a phenomenal number that
Yeah.
is incarcerated. Though, when you go in to do like prison ministries and things like that, is there a certain criteria to get on that side of it also, or is it just how, I know that they're housed separately, basically, depending on the,
Yeah.
the thing, but to get onto that side more with,
No, not necessarily. If you want to get involved, you just that's where you apply for.
okay.
It's like the people that work at Men's Central are people that have applied to work at Men's Central. Their ministries wanted to come into Men's Central, but there's a lot of churches that go into Twin Towers. But I don't know if you guys knew this. Twin Towers is the largest mental health facility in the world. There's nothing bigger in the whole world than Twin Towers as far as mental health goes, and it's on a graduated scale. The bottom being the least medicated, the most coherent, to the top floor, which is acute psychiatric, people having psychiatric breaks, paranoid, schizophrenic, completely delusional, really out there people. And what they do is they get them upstairs and they start medicating them and trying different stuff with them, and they gradually move them down in floors. Each floor is a step down in their treatment, a step down in their meds, until they get down to the bottom floor where they're okay to go. They prepare them to go out. So it's quite a process they all go through there, but it's amazing that we've got 5. I think that half of the mental health issues is due to methamphetamine.
Yeah, a lot of it does.
I really do. I've seen so much damage caused by that. It's scary. Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to talk to you maybe at the end of this or
Sure.
whatever, and see what it's like to get involved. When I got out of college, there was a thing called M2, Match 2 Ministry for Chino Men's Institution.
Uh-huh.
And they would match you with a prisoner that got nobody to visit. So for 6 years, the last Saturday of the month, I'd go out. They'd have us sit on a picnic table, and you'd talk to this guy with a soft cell ministry. When that person got out, they'd match you with somebody else. And I really enjoyed that. And I think I want to get back involved. I've talked to Pastor Isaac. He said, be sure to come tonight because you're going to be here.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get involved again.
Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that. The problem with a county jail as opposed to a prison is they're constantly being moved around. They're going to court. They're being transferred from facility to facility. They have hospital visits, court visits, probation department visits, parole hearings. So, visiting there is 20 minutes period, and it's through glass. So it's unproductive for those kind of visits. Prison's set up a little different. Prison, they know you're going to be there longer, so you're allowed a little more freedom. You're allowed a little more family contact. You get hugs. You can get a hug in prison. You can sit across the table and chat with your family. And you can't do that in the county jail. You can do it out of wayside if you're in a fire camp, but if you're not real low level security in the county jail, that stuff doesn't work. It's hard to keep track of anybody because we don't know how long somebody's going to be in the jail. Right now, they're on the 10% rule in LA County. 10% rule is if you're arrested and charged with a nonviolent crime and you get sentenced to the county jail, whatever your sentence is, you do 10% of it. So if you're sentenced to a year, you do 36 days. That's the 10% rule. And that is this, if it is a nonviolent misdemeanor, 36 days on a year. Now, your charges can add up or they can give you more time and continue it out there, but the average person is serving 10% of what they're sentenced to. If they're a violent crime, they only do, if they get sentenced to county jail time only, it's about 50% of their time, sometimes up to 70% depending, but everybody's getting out way early. And you guys all know with Prop 47 in California that you can steal, they just closed a Walmart, not a Walmart, a store because of shoplifting. The only reason they closed it was because people were coming in, and shoplifting $10,000 to $15,000 worth of stuff every day at one store. And the problem is in California, you can steal up to $949 worth of merchandise, and all you do is you get a ticket. Here, have a nice day. You get a ticket. Now you can go to a store down the street, steal $949 worth of more stuff. Here's a ticket. They can't take you to jail if you steal less than if you steal less than $950. Same thing with methamphetamine, heroin, all your drugs. You can have possession of all drugs. Here's a ticket, please. You don't go to jail for it anymore. You get a ticket. So people aren't experiencing consequences for what they're doing anymore, and the crime rate's going up, thefts are going up, burglaries are going up, and they're wondering why. But that's what's going on. It's a pretty nasty situation. I'm going to pray you guys out of here because I think I've been talking. Have I bored you guys?
No.
You sure? Okay. I need to know when I bore people because he won't tell me anymore. So anyway, let me pray for you guys. Father, once again, thank you for just caring about us and loving us and always desiring to bless us, Lord. You always have us in your grip, Lord. You're always watching out for us, watching over us, Lord. Help us, Lord, to surrender our lives to you, to give you the chance to turn us into the men and women you've called us to be. Have us to be bold on your behalf, and have us to reach as many as we can and snatch them out of the grip of hell. And Father, just help us in everything. Help us to be of good courage because you're still in charge. And Father, I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Peace. Oh, I brought one more thing, guys. I wrote a book, and this is my legacy to the jail. I knew that I was going to be retiring and stepping down soon, so I spent 7 years working on a book. It's not a testimony. It's not my story. And what it is I realized a long time ago that I didn't have a lot of time to spend with inmates, that I didn't have hours upon hours to talk to them and sit around with them, that sometimes I had 10 minutes, sometimes I had 20 minutes. So what the book is, it's everything if I only had 10 or 15 minutes with you, it's everything I'd want you to know. It's got a sweet little gospel message, and it tells them, it's called How in the Hell Did You Wind Up in Jail? It is now the most popular book in the LA County Jail. So yeah, so it's also in the Orange County Jail now. Kern County Jail, I've just sent a couple of cases up to San Quentin. So it's going everywhere. Pray that it gets out even further. But it's got a little gospel message in there, got a little sinner's prayer how to do it, and it tells them what to do when they're done. So it's kind of like my little legacy. But I brought a copy for everybody. Would you pass these out for me? Anyway, thank you guys. God bless. Love you. Thank you for coming. Don't tell Isaac I had fun with you.